Hi, everybody. I think I should be live. So if someone can hear me, can you please post in the chat that you can hear me, and then I can proceed. Okay, I'm just going to do it anyway. Yeah. Are we good? Are we good, Marv? Okay, perfect. Okay, welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We should have some interesting news and discussion for you today. I'll shortly hand you over to Herman, who will give us a more in-depth update as to what's going on and all the most important things that you need to know. Then I'll chat a little bit about some of the more ancillary things that are going on at the moment. Then we're going to have a brief update from Diego and Marv about Seedling and Cherish respectively, and then we'll jump into the quiz. With regards to the quiz, we've basically collected all the answers and all the people that need to get paid for the last 4 weeks. I'm going to announce the winners of last week's quiz right before this week's quiz, and everybody will get paid their prize money for the past while, including today, within the next 12 hours. People who have joined us today who took part and won the Gleam competition, those people should have the cherry in their wallets already. If you won the meme competition, you will probably have your prize by the end of the day as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to give everybody a brief overview of what's going on. Within a couple hours as well, you'll also see an update, our latest newsletter. And there is, of course, some big announcements to come from Herman. He's going to give us, he'll give us that fresh from the presses. Otherwise, we have some interesting things coming later on that I'll discuss about events, ambassadors, news, media, and also marketing and things like that. But we'll get to the important stuff first, and I'll hand you over to Herman now, if he's online. I think I brought him into the Zoom call a few minutes ago, so he should be there to give us a bit of an update if he's around. Are you here, Herman?
Yep. Hey, guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Fabulous. So to reiterate on last week's AMA, the network is pretty much flawless. Quite happy to say that, to share that. No incidents, no major bug reports so far. As I see it, I think we can call it the main network release was a success. There were some faults with the bridge, mostly to do with the interface. People were able to send tokens to null addresses. Hopefully most of that will be fixed, or has been fixed, and will continue to be addressed over the coming days. But of the many hundreds, I believe, transactions, only perhaps 10 or so failed. Of those who failed, a couple were already resolved manually, while the others are now getting the smart contract will be upgraded such that unless the bridge transaction is finalized within a specified amount of time, they will revert. So everybody should not particularly worry about any cherry tokens lost in the bridge. If they were at all, sometimes it's just a problem getting the Polkadot.js or the address to work properly on cherry.place. But if they were, these tokens will be back in their wallets of origin, whether on Binance Chain or Polygon. As mentioned in the blog release about the bridge, we don't have plans currently to implement an inverse bridge, so switching mainnet tokens for Binance tokens and other EVM tokens. We have other things in plan for this, namely an exchange that will support our base token. But if you really, really want it, you can just wait the few weeks it will take for that feature to be added to the bridge. What many have asked is staking as planned. Staking would get live to about a week from mainnet. That week, which is 7 days, has since passed. Last night, I believe, last night was the mark of the 7 days. We'd hope to get the staking online today. Due to an issue with one of the 5 validators, I'm not completely certain that we shall. I'll leave it at that. Expect upcoming news about this, but regardless, all roadmap achievements and so forth, all intentions, everything I frankly share in these calls, there's nothing new about them. You can also tune out, is methodically tracked in the track.trade network. The whole team is doing a pretty good job at adapting to this now building public strategy or methodology. So if any commitments were made in that track.trade network, they'll be met. If they aren't, you'll see there why and how and when instead they'll be met. But in specific to staking, if it wasn't last night, if it isn't tonight, which it might still be, it'll probably be within the next 48 hours. So the one thing I wanted to share that isn't this sort of announcement is an outlook of the broader market and Cherry's position within it. So as your wallets have certainly felt, these are uncertain times in crypto markets and more generally in the broader economy. Startups in general, capital costs more and more money. Startups tend to fail in these circumstances due to the lack of financing or the risk averseness capital have in context of high interest rates. Cherry isn't particularly shielded from these system features, these system characteristics. We are one among many. The difference between Cherry and others, I believe, is that we actually understand a basis of economics, at least, and we understand how to preserve capital and how to adapt strategy in response to changing circumstances within crypto and more broadly the economy. We're now looking at and planning for different models, whether short-term recession, whether a longer-term market downturn. We're planning degrees of interest being gained or lost or transitioning from different aspects to crypto to others. We certainly believe that, as we've seen before, certain things had their own fad phase. Like for example, NFTs were very, very trendy about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and now a bit less so. We are, closely watching this specific dynamic and changes, and I think, and I'll say this on behalf or in support of our team. The team is doing a very good job at understanding the risks and responding to each in a weighted and professional way. Let's call it that. But beside this doom and gloom that is the markets and are now differentiating and varying models of it. On the upside is Cherry had a pretty big budget. We had a pretty successful token sale. And that was about 8 months ago. In the time since, we've managed to keep costs pretty much to a minimum. I think there's very good cachet and value that was built over the past years, and particularly the past 8 months with partners, which are incredible assets and that will continue to leverage despite whatever the markets do in the short term. And so overall, we're in a pretty healthy position. While people may be annoyed or bemused perhaps by short-term market fluctuations, while you may think that other projects are responding better or worse, or you may have an opinion about how things should be done differently than the way we're doing it. And our team can back me up on this. I shared some thought about this yesterday. I believe that our strategy is pretty mature, and though perhaps not the most effective, for sure, if the market is exactly right, let's say that this downturn lasts only a few months, then sure, throwing all the money you have in your treasury and the kitchen sink too, just to keep your project afloat for the next 3 months, and then hope that there's a market upswing, and there is, then all the better. That would at that point have been the better move. But in the off chance in 3 months things don't pick up, which is pretty arbitrary. We don't really know what the markets will do, nor is it our job to predict them. I think our strategy is a bit more or better suited to endure varying circumstances. So if in 3 months things do pick up, we'll have a lot of new products built. We'll definitely be able to reactivate a lot of the most cost-intensive facets of Cherry that we've now since dimmed, like marketing and so forth. But if the market really does continue to go down, interest continues to dwindle for years, even in that case, I believe the Cherry position with this new strategy is pretty strong. Might remind you, Avalanche, Solana, and others were born out of a market downturn. They were born out of the crypto winter post 2017's peaks. I believe that that alone is a very good testament of the accuracy and validity of our strategy now. If you want any more insight in these choices and the mindset behind it, feel free to engage with us. We'll try to explain it in a blog, and definitely keep you updated within the track.trade network page. I don't really have anything more specific to say about any of it, either the strategy or news of around this week or the next few weeks. I think more broadly, you can expect a greater focus on quality over quantity. This is not an obvious choice. Many projects have done a great job at getting a lot of volume in their chains through tons and tons of projects, which may or may not have been valid or structured, and have done a great job and reaped great rewards. There are some examples of this. I won't mention them. There are others which have focused more on quality. Some have worked out well, some haven't. I believe that in broader terms, quality tends to beat quantity when you can achieve quality in a cost-effective manner. and you do that having great skill within your team and the ability to deploy capital smart. I believe we have that, and we do have, and we'll continue to keep that edge over other projects, especially those which in the short term will tend to overspend to compensate for the market situation in a dumb as in the non-offensive way, if there is one, and neutral way rather than a smart and structured and rigorous way that we hope to project, at least within Cherry. So that's it from me. If you have any questions about what I just said or anything else, feel free to ask. If you have any questions about the usual, when staking, when this, when that, I again invite you to either wait for a written reply if it hasn't been addressed yet, or just read through the track.cherry network. We're being quite good with our roadmap and our diary. Just in closing, if you have any other questions, more about the processes and how do I interface with this, a bit more high level than when Moon, and if you've been attentive, you can already see a lot of updates in the docs.cherry network, specific around consensus, so staking, nominating, etc. We'll be adding a section about treasury pretty soon, probably today, and we expect that the documentation as it is now will pretty much double over the next few weeks. So I'm pretty happy about that. We can finally explain all we've done in a quite technical, but hopefully a comprehensible way for anybody who's interested.
Thank you, Herman. We have some questions if you wouldn't mind having a look. With regards to the APY of 35 to 40% that we discussed, how can Cherry give 35 to 40% APY in staking when I see other big projects only give between 10 to 20% maximum?
Okay, this it has many questions within it. I'll refer you to the exact numbers that reside in the documentation, maybe not now, but shall. In regards to how and why the numbers are and what do they mean, etc. The reasoning behind it is that the growth of simply token in circulation, so the diluted value of the Cherry network, should be commensurate to the growth of the network as the value of the network. So if new tokens or if new projects join, if new users join, there's various mathematical or economic expressions that determine the value of the network. I can refer you to, I think it's called Beckstrom's law, Metcalfe's law, that all determine that the value of a network is associated with either the number of users and the connection that the user form, or the number of users, the connections and they form, and the transaction that they generate. This like the theoretical backing, I can speak much more about this. I don't think we have the time, but generally the idea is that if you believe that the Cherry network as an entity, as an ecosystem, can grow more than 30%, I think it's quite conservative, frankly. We haven't even seen the half of it yet. I've given you an intuition of all the things that are being built, but I think you'll be still pleasantly surprised, even though I've been hinting at so many things both the core team and the ecosystem developers have been making. I think that's still very, very conservative. So at least if we can exceed that, the overall criticisms that the token value would diminish due to inflation is pretty much inaccurate.
Okay, thank you, Herman. There was another question regarding about staking regarding the rewards being vested. Will it be daily or monthly? I presume we should just wait for more documentation on that. So
All these procedural information about staking are either already there. So if you go on docs.network/consensus, I think it's the document there, you'll have all these sections there, all these answers. I think addressing this specific point and not.
Thank you. Yep. There was another question that I actually already addressed, which was in our diary of this week. There was a mention of a hiring freeze of sorts, and someone asked us to explain the reasons behind the hiring freeze, and I can kind of just explain that, as Herman said, during conditions of extreme uncertainty in the market, it's not a great time to be expanding the commitments that you have in your labor force and the human resource base, which is both an asset and a liability, but it's an asset that you may not be able to draw rewards from immediately, but it will continue to be a liability at all times, because you will continue to have to pay people their bills, or pay people their salaries, but you may not be able to leverage their talents and their hours to actually make money in the short term. So it's not a hard hiring freeze. It's just that we've been expanding so quickly at the moment. We have brought on a lot of people onto the team, and it doesn't really make as much sense right now to just continue to accelerate how many people we hire. So I think that's covered that question. I think I answered it in the chat earlier. So I think that's basically everything for Herman. Thank you, Herman, for joining us. There'll probably be another couple of questions knocking around in the group. I'll tag you if I see any. You can always just leave questions for Herman. As always, he's in there 2 or 3 times a day for a while, so there's never an issue with that. I'm going to move on to continue to elaborate on something that Herman mentioned in terms of where Cherry finds itself strategically. I'm going to be very brief, and then I'm going to talk about some of the other things that are going on. I'll also be very brief in that regard as well, and then we'll talk to Marvin and Diego, not for very long again. And at the moment, given everything that's been going on in the project with our mainnet launch, I'm happy to say that we're quite busy at the moment, and as such, it benefits us and it benefits you if we go back to work as quickly as possible and just keep working, and then release the cool things that are coming up. We'll release them as quickly as possible. So I don't think there's any real reason for a very long-winded AMA. I think it's better to just get it in and boxed off and tell you about the cool things that are coming up and what we've been working on, and then just get back to work. I think that's better for everybody. But back to what I was saying, with regards to the strategic landscape that Cherry finds itself in, you will see over the next few months that a lot of projects will go to the wall. A lot of projects will panic, and they'll say, we had a very fragile and very specific expansion plan, which now that the markets have gone even more downhill, it is not looking likely that we'll be able to do that. So what will happen, and Herman spoke to us about this a little bit yesterday, and it's very true, is that projects will actually start to spend more money, because they'll feel themselves kind of sinking into the quicksand, and they'll try and do something to get themselves back out of it, because their financial situation is not very healthy. These are usually projects that aren't necessarily bad projects. There's not necessarily anything wrong with them, but they don't have the experience. They may not have been through the trials and tribulations of a bootstrapped startup atmosphere in a downturn, which is an experience that will put hair on anyone's chest. And but what you learn from that is that you need to think long term, but you need to be able to survive long term. So Cherry is in a position where we have taken the approach that it is better to be strategic and deliberate and rigorous in terms of how we spend money, instead of just having, oh well, we spend X amount of thousands on marketing every month, and that's just the way it is. We have a different approach at Cherry where we justify every expense, and we've been doing this for a long time. So we don't. Well, we did spend, for example, money on marketing for the mainnet. We also managed to get much higher return on investment from what we spent this time around than what we spent previously at the initial token sale period. So it is very much a case where we while, you know, in to use an awkward metaphor, while you're in a very choppy waters at the moment, and every business finds itself in choppy waters, we're hoping to have a resilient vessel of a business that will not sink while other businesses around it are sinking. Like, they can't handle the pressure that their business model is being put under and their financial model is being put under. Whereas we'll be able to do that because, as Herman said, we're financially in a healthy place, and we also have the expertise and we have the business practices already set up where we will always be demanding of ourselves in terms of how we spend money. And that's what you want from a project when it's in the kind of situation that we're in now, where we don't know, as Herman said, how long market downturns will last. But you can be guaranteed that no matter how long it lasts, we'll be in a relatively better situation the longer these things go on than our competitors, or even companies that aren't competitors but that are just in the same space as us. And you'll find that while it's good to be resilient, the kind of the dynamics of this sphere means that that resilience actually becomes an asset. Many of you will be familiar with the kind of it's a bit of a vague term, to be anti-fragile. We will hope to be anti-fragile in the future, where the more turbulence, the more volatility, we'll actually thrive relative to our competitors. We'll thrive on that, so that we can be like the other massive projects now who were actually born during the previous downturn about in the aftermath of about 4 years ago. So that's our plan. I won't go on about it anymore, but that gives you an idea of the strategic considerations behind a lot of the decisions that we make on a daily basis and on a medium and long-term basis. So that's that. Back to business. We will have an event coming up pretty soon, in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be a very fun one. I've kind of mentioned where it will be before. I'm not actually going to go into it now because I don't want too much of a rush to my DMs to ask about when it's happening and stuff like that. We'll probably announce all the details within the next few days. It's going to be, as always, it's going to be a pretty low-key, intimate, as in fun and personal affair. We like to do these events with a low pressure kind of a low pressure situation where it's not like we've rented out a conference center and spent tons of money and put lots of pressure on everybody. It's better for us to focus on our jobs, and then the events to be community driven and community organized, to not cost anyone too much money, and also be easy to organize and stress free. And that way people can there's no downsides, and people can just join up like we did in Seville and in London and just have a chat, which is what we really want. So I'll give you more details about that in the next few days. But it will come like mid-July. Aside from that, we have the newsletter going out later today. It is we've kind of covered everything that will be in the newsletter. You probably know, mostly know about it already. There won't be any big surprises in there, but it's a nice thing for to read over, to get a view of everything that's happening. We have a really cool video, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm just finalizing the script now. We're going to send it to our partners in the animating and video firm that we have. It's going to launch. It'll be at the end of next week when we release it. It'll be something very good for the hype squad to share around, because we're going to have it so that it's short enough to share on TikTok, to share on Twitter and stuff like that. And it's really to the point, and it doesn't get too sidetracked in complicated things. It just really expresses what Cherry is very, very succinctly and simply. So that'll be fun. We have an update to our ambassador page. We have lots and lots of things. There'll be another diary update next Monday. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening. There'll be launches of ecosystem projects, which we're going to kind of vaguely touch on now in a moment. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll have announcements every day of cool stuff happening. Staking is coming imminently, which a lot of you are very keen to get involved in. So yeah, it's everything since the start of the mainnet, which has gone, as Herman said, from a technical perspective, very, very smoothly. Everything's been kind of ticking over well on the business side in Cherry. Everything's going quite according to plan as it could be, given the turmoil in the markets at the moment, but we're very optimistic. So I'm not going to talk too much longer. I've been talking for too long. Marv and Diego, would you mind joining in?
Not at all.
Hello.
Hello, Owen.
Hey guys, is Diego here?
Yes, definitely.
I'm here.
Hi
Diego.
guys.
Hey Diego, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to start off with small reflection following Herman's thoughts and Owen's thoughts, and give you kind of an idea of where our head is at Seedling, and on our work and what will probably be the model of working. So we're very aware of the conditions and the Launchpad space in particular. We have very good financial advisors also supporting us from Cherry Network in order to take the best decisions we can in tough situations or in pretty much any situation. So the Launchpad space is one that has been definitely affected by market fluctuations. We are directly affected by projects. So since they are delaying their launch, rather than just saying market conditions or lack of liquidity. So knowing this, I must also say that Launchpads have truly taken a key role in the success of a token's launch and even their post-launch success. So as everyone knows, they are 100% necessary in the ecosystem and their utility is essential. It's not like it's lost any utility, just like Launchpads are directly correlated to projects. So yeah, following the whole ecosystem view of long-term health, we know whilst a lot of projects and Launchpads are looking down to the market, are just waiting for the cycle to end as quickly as possible, we in Seedling understand this as a great opportunity. Many team members have been through this situation before and see this as a way to prepare, get new network connections, standardize certain tools that can be then marketed for exponential growth. So we've been closely looking at many options that could expand maybe our utility. This is very important as it can kind of help out not only the other projects or partners we have, but directly to investors, to you guys, giving you guys some extra value to your investments. We are preparing some kind of new things and content to have a relative advantage to our competitors, so that crypto users and investors kind of keep learning and keep interested in growing their focus on blockchain and crypto. So I personally think this kind of mentality and approach will help a lot of projects, a lot of people, and will also help newcomers to adopt Seedling as their preference option for the particular launchpad or pre-sale space in the short, medium, and long term, which is where we look at. And then briefly mention, I realized me and many mods see many questions that are being repeatedly asked every week, also on private messages, which makes us lose a lot of time and lose information in between. So I've been recuperating all these questions, asked every time, and we'll create a kind of FAQ or written answer section to answer and inform all of our investors and keep everything efficiently working. So yeah, thank you for listening. I'm very optimistic on the future of Seedling. And Marv, do you want to go through?
Sure thing. Yes, definitely. As it comes to Cherish, Cherish is a bit of a different project when it comes to the other projects, because we at Cherish, we are not interlinked primarily with projects like the Cherry chain. Of course, we run on the Cherry chain, and Seedling has projects to push. We are a content platform, right? There's always going to need to be content. There's always going to be artists who want to expose the world to what they've been doing. So for Cherish, the situation is a bit differently. We are able to continue our work and continue to grow as a social network and a social media platform. So we will not be affected by the market downturn as much. There will be a bit of less attention for crypto, but this is a chance we have to grow the adoption of crypto, certainly when it comes to use of crypto in the social media space. So our mission stays the same. We need to make it easier for creators to actually monetize their content and get in touch with their fans. So we're not too worried about that at all. So when it comes to the project status of Cherish, our time frame is still valid. So we're still looking for to launch in a few weeks. Yeah, this is still valid. Before we launch, we're looking to do a bigger or a decent marketing drive, as expected. This will be a period of let's say small 2 weeks, 10 days before the platform launches. We'll do a bigger push to make sure that enough attention is being brought to the platform before it launches. Then, as Owen said, the event's coming soon. I think this time I'll be a part of that as well, because as maybe some of you know, this will be a bit closer to where where I live. So that's something we're working forward towards as well. And then we've continued our onboarding. A lot of efforts still being made towards that. As some of you might have seen, we've just onboarded another artist called Luther, and you can check that out on cherish.cx/featured creator/Luther. But a lot of other artists and creators are still in the works. We're in talks with them, and so everything's looking good on that end. So to recap, our time frame is still valid. We're doing a marketing drive right before the launch of our platform, and then the event and more onboarding.
Very good, thank you, Marv. So that's all. Yeah, that's all we kind of wanted to go over. We got that done good and quick as well. I'm going to briefly take a quick look to see if there's any other relevant questions. Yes, Daniel, yeah, that is going to be launched on the Cherry mainnet itself. People asking again about random wallet addresses, which are almost always exchange wallet addresses or market maker addresses. It's always very straightforward, but it's one of those things that people just absolutely have to always get this information. They have to just like bother us about it, like for no reason. It's the same as people asking when we say, hey, there'll be an announcement today about staking or something, then people will ask us every 20 minutes when it's happening. Honestly, personally speaking, I just don't get it. I don't get why some people like spend their time doing it. But it's like, yeah, in future, when it comes to things like this, or when it comes to people like saying, you know, asking how many days are in a week. So for example, in business, if you say, oh, well, something will be launching in early June, and then it launches in early June, and then you say, well, the next event is going to happen a week later. If it happens 7.5 days later, it's still a week. So, you know, if you leave comments in the chat saying like, well, this has been like 2 hours late, I mean, it's not going to speed things up. You're not going to gain anything out of it. It's not going to make anything improve. You're just kind of wasting your time. So a lot of the community keep contacting me about it, and they keep saying that there's a lot of kind of people that the same kind of people just continually kind of are really impatient about stuff when we always deliver what we say we'll deliver, you know, around about when it's supposed to happen, you know. And we have probably one of the best track records when it comes to timing, scheduling, how much transparency and information and contact with the community we have, how much development work we've actually done in a short space of time. All of these things are really, and we're very receptive to the community. If they ask for something, then we do it. So all these things, you know, we're among the best, if not the best, project in crypto when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, you know, in future we're going to kind of like not entertain some of these like random inane questions that keep coming out, because it's really not that important, you know. We need to be able to focus on what we're doing and not have to answer lots of random questions. We get a lot of good questions every week, really interesting questions, pertinent questions, things we have overlooked that we are glad to talk about, or pressing questions about accountability, transparency and stuff that it's good for us to force ourselves to answer. But random questions about random wallet addresses that's not it. Like that's not what we all need to be spending our time on. So it's been a really positive 7 days since the mainnet launch. The staking is coming live, which a lot of people are really looking forward to, because it means that their investments get to work more for them in the short term. So this is really good. And we're going to just try and focus on these things and deliver as much as possible. People wanted as much accountability as possible, which is why we made the project diary, which literally updates the roadmap on a 7 day basis and gives you an extreme amount of granular detail in terms of what's going on. We started the AMAs as well, so you guys will get information as soon as we can possibly give it to you. So we love being able to announce things. So, yep, as someone just said, the community is very active. We love to be able to announce things to people and get people involved. So please, if we haven't announced something, you can just rest assured that we will give you information as soon as it's relevant and as soon as we can. So I'm going to stop talking now, and John is going to jump on the call. I'm going to just unmute him there. Can you unmute yourself there, John? Oh, is it? All right, we'll skip. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll just post the questions in Telegram, and then I'll love you and leave you, as we say in Ireland. We're going to be available for any questions as the week goes on. We'll have more announcements and more cool stuff in the next few days. And I think that I'll have a nice announcement about the event that's upcoming in the next few days as well. And in the meantime, any questions, or especially good questions, please post them in the chat, or you can send me a DM if you don't want to ask them publicly. And we'll get to the prize winners from this week and previous weeks, as well as the meme contest prize winners will be receiving their prizes in the next few hours as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to hand you over to Marv and John are going to post the questions, and the quiz will be underway. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.